Hello, my name is Evan Watson. Today I'm going to be discussing the traditional adoption in Texas for sibling groups and twins. First thing I'm going to talk about is who can adopt in Texas. Now, these are the major requirements I'm going to be covering, but there are some additional requirements. So in order to adopt in Texas, you must be a U.S. citizen. You must be at least 21 years of age, 25 if you are unmarried. You must be financially stable. You must have an adequate sleeping space, and you must provide criminal background check. Now there are three types of adoptions that I'm going to be discussing. There are foster adoption, agency adoption, and independent adoption. With foster adoption, it is when a child is placed in a foster home's care when parental rights are being terminated. The child receives care from that foster adoption parent until the child becomes available for adoption, in which that foster adoption parent can adopt that child if they want to. Now, with agency adoption and independent adoption, those two compare in a sense of the services they provide. Now, with their differences, it's pretty common sense. With an agency adoption, a family adopts through a licensed private adoption agency, as opposed to independent adoptions, which is managed by an adoption attorney. With an agency adoption, the Department of Social Services or a licensed adoption agency asks the court for permission to adopt the child. And through independent adoption, prospective parents take active roles in identifying a birth mother using networking, advertising, etc. Now, with the termination of parental rights, that kickstarts really any adoption. Now, when a termination of parental rights takes place, it's when the birth parents are seen before a court in which a judge takes legal action and issues a decree declaring that all birth rights are to be terminated permanently. These actions must take place before the child reaches the adoption age. Then, with the termination of legal rights, it can be either voluntary or involuntary for the birth parents. In other words, the birth parents can either willingly go in and terminate their rights, or the court can go in and do so without their agreement. Now, in most cases, when there's involuntary activity with birth parents' rights, it is through independent adoption. Now, the adoption process for sibling groups and twins begins when deciding to pursue adoption. When parents decide on adopting, they must take in consideration all the elements and all the aspects of what it is to have more than one children, taking care of one children at one time, and it should be made as a joint decision rather than just one individual. Now, applying for adoption is the step when parents need to provide detailed information such as family references, financial income statements, and background checks. Now, some information I pulled from the Adoptive Assistance Program is that parents benefit more when they provide a strong family structure and no criminal background checks. Now, moving to the completion of applying for adoption is completing an adoption home study, which the purpose of that is getting parents familiarized with the whole process, finding out if they're comfortable with it, and just an overall evaluation of the parent's commitment. Now, after the completion of the home study becomes the pre-introduction to the children, which is being matched with the child. And so parents have to understand the matching process and how it works. So with the information they provide from the application, agencies go in consideration of all their information they provided and go out and find a child that best matches that information, which leads me to my next step, which is receiving an adoption placement. In this step, the parents become more familiarized with each child, spending more time with each child, setting up appointments, and being for the child there in the most critical points in their life. Birthdays, Christmases, end of school years. So, coming to the finalizing of the adoption is when the adoptive parents come before the court and the judge finalizes their adoption, taking into consideration all their information and granting full custody to the parents. Full custody to the parents. So the final step is the most important because it's living as an adoptive family, being as a whole, and the real responsibilities begin. And providing nurturing care for each child equally is very important as well, because if not, then the family structure could fall apart pretty quickly. Finally, the financial planning for adoption. Now, in adoption, planning comes first. And I've listed a couple of key concepts here that are really going to help with planning for adoption, such as creating a final plan, knowing tax advantages, getting rid of high interest debt, looking at different insurance options, thinking of long-term investments such as education funding for each child, whether they want to go off to college later, and really just weighing out the pros and cons of affording for adoption. This is my works cited. Thank you again for viewing my presentation. I hope I answered all the questions for you today, and have a good one.